Hello, I'm Robin Willis with eXp Realty, and I'm just going to talk to you today about the Tucson real estate market. Now, keep in mind when I say Tucson, I mean Tucson and the surrounding areas. I'm part of the MLS of Southern Arizona, which includes areas like Green Valley, Marana, Oro Valley, Vail, a little bit of Benson, St. David, all these areas. But for the most part, the majority of the homes that are in our MLS are in Tucson and the areas immediately surrounding it. So if you have a home here or thinking of buying a home here, this is information that you need to know. It's July of 2020, and so this has been a very interesting year for many reasons, and the real estate market has certainly been responsive to the coronavirus pandemic. So the first thing that I'm going to show you here are some statistics from the Tucson MLS, or the MLS of Southern Arizona. Each month they come out with these, so I have January through June right now, because July is not over yet. And it just kind of shows you one thing that's kind of a good way to just look at things really quickly is look at the quick back section. It shows a change, this is a year over year. So it's important to kind of like look at what's been going on. Like, so for example, January 2020, we're doing a little bit better than 2019 in terms of closed sales. Of course, median sales price has gone up. And then there was a change in homes for sale. So this indicator, if it's negative, means a seller's market because it means that there are fewer homes for sale. Of course, that's when I say it's a seller's market, I mean, it will be if there are enough buyers looking. If there's not, then obviously those homes for sale could just be sitting there. But in our case, we have a robust buyer interest in the Tucson area. So then in February, again, up with the closed sales, change in median sales price year over year is 10%. That's pretty impressive. But the change in homes for sale was pretty low. So in February, coronavirus news started to spread, and people were just kind of watching it. It was not really serious in the United States yet. And the stock market was starting to respond, though. Towards the end of February, the stock market really plummeted. In March, a little bit better on our change in homes for sale. Now, typically in our market, we start out kind of slow at the beginning of the year, and then we really start to see a pickup in buyer and seller activity towards the end of February and early March, and it just increases into the summer. It usually peaks around around June. So this is also interesting too here, a slight change in the closed sales on all properties. That's not a huge problem. It's not even 1% less than last year. So March was doing okay still. We were still, there are still people in progress buying at that point. So even though we started to experience a shutdown, real estate was essential. So we kept going with the people that were ready and interested. Now, here's what's really interesting. So you can see that there was some slowdown in buyer traffic in March because in April, the closed sales were much lower than they had been the year before. So things that go under contract one month are going to be sold the next month. And here's also a little bit of a problem indicator. In April, we have a substantial decrease in the homes for sale from the year before. And I'll show you on the graphs in a minute. It's a little bit easier to see what was going on compared to normal years when you look at the graph of the last 3 years. And then in May, again, same thing. And also a drastic difference in closed sales. So like I said, this is usually the time of year when sales are ramping up. Inventory will start falling because they're being bought up. But we have a little bit of an issue with homes not being listed as quickly this year. And so, of course, we have a drastic difference in homes for sale, a drastic difference in closed sales. You can't sell homes that aren't on the market or are interested in being sold. And then in June, we did a little bit better. So remember how in May, around May 15th, our governor opened our state back up. And people were still kind of looking a little bit. And, so in May, he opens it back up. So in June, it would make sense that closed sales got a little bit closer to last year because people started going out and being able to buy again. but there's a huge change in homes for sale. So we have a problem here because we are not having homes listed as quickly as we are having them sell. All right, so we're going to go through this. This is for the last 3 years. So I am going to move myself up here. This is for all price ranges, all property types. If you're interested, I would be happy to break this out into a different property type. Like, for example, if you have a townhome, or, if you live, your home is worth 300 to 350, we can focus on that range, and I can show you that. But this is going to be for everybody. So we're just going to focus on the general. And you can see a pattern here. So these are new listings. So you see how I said it was kind of low in January. It starts to build up in February and March. See, so it's usually peaking in March. And the reason that it will peak in around March or April is that then the buyers are out, and so they start buying homes up, so that inventory gets bought up. And, so it's really normal for our inventory to go down a little bit. And throughout all these summer months, through the end of the summer, our inventory gets depleted by the buyer activity. So that's typically the best time to list your home, is sometime in the spring or summer. And then there's always a little bump in October because people are still listing their homes. And then it goes down. So here you have your big family holidays, your Thanksgiving, even Halloween, Christmas, Hanukkah, all these things where families come together. They aren't typically thinking about listing homes. So they go down. And this, you can see this pattern has followed year after year. Everything goes down. Lowest number of sellers putting their homes on the market in December. And then it starts to build after the first of the year when the holidays are over, peaks in March. And then as buyers start buying up the inventory, people are still listing their homes, but fewer people are listing because a lot of them list early. And it just goes on year after year. So here's 2019, again, a peak, and then it goes down, a little bump in October, and then people really are not interested in listing during those holiday months. And so here we started out in 2020, the same pattern. It started going up, listing in February, even in March. People had just listed their homes, thinking everything was going to be fine. But then it's really drastically dropped off. So look at the difference here. Like, we are almost at December's level of people listing new homes right now. So that poses a problem because it goes from new listings, then it goes to pending sales. So you have to have listings on the market in order to sell homes, obviously. So in here, the pending sales are low in January and February. They start to go up in March, and then they go down as the listing inventory goes down. So a lot of buyers buy in this range right here. And so every year, this was 2017, 2018, we peaked a little higher, 2019, a similar peak. And so remember, all those numbers that I showed you at the beginning, they're going to be compared against this year right here, which is 2019. And so then, the pending sales go down over the summer and especially into November and December. And then they start to go up again because people are done with the holidays, spending time with family, and they're back to business. And a lot of times families want to buy that home before the end of the school year or before let the kids switch if they're going to switch in the summer. So in March, we were right on target to go up in pending sales. We had our lockdown, so those went down a little bit in April. And then people started to come back out a little bit and say, well, you know what, we've got coronavirus, but if you still have to buy a house, you have to buy a house, So in June, we have a lot of pending sales. So this is a good sign of buyer interest. And then you'll see that closed sales follow. So again, low in January, then in February, it goes up. Now here's what's interesting to note. So that in in March is when we usually peak with new homes going on the market, and the buyer demand hasn't quite cleared those off yet. Well, closed sales, so people are going under contract in March, April, May. So the closed sales are going to peak around May or June. And then they're still kind of high for a while. Those summer months, people are still buying. But it's that springtime bump that really gets us to this high point every single year in June. So here's June of 2019, and then it goes down as usual. You see how it's really low. This 2019 was a little bit slower too. Like our dip was lower at the beginning of the year. Usually, we do our lowest is February because those closed sales are dependent on pending sales 30 to 45 days ahead of time. So that would be putting it right at the beginning of the year or even into Christmas and New Year's holidays. So those people are really serious about buying, and people do still buy at that time of year. But they don't, the closed sales really are happening usually in May and June. And as a realtor, my biggest month for closing them all is usually in June. So in 2019, same thing. We peaked in June, went down, November, December, and then of course January was low. February is still pretty low. And then, March started to climb, March and April. But look at this. There's March of 2020. And here's March of 2019. Now look at how high April went of 2019 and then April of 2020. So we started to try to climb, but then we flattened out right here with our closed sales. And June has gotten a little bit better. So basically, there's a lot to watch here. If you are a seller and are able to put your home on the market, please go right ahead because we desperately need homes on the market. Your home, if it's in decent shape and we market it properly, it will definitely sell quickly. Of course, it also has to be priced correctly. Overpriced homes still are not selling, although we do have bidding wars. So the important thing to watch over the next few months is to see what happens with inventory, because if sellers don't put their home on the market, our closed sales are going to plummet. We have buyer demand, a lot of buyer demand, but if they have to have something to purchase. If you're a buyer, it's a tough time to buy right now, but the rates are so incredible that it's still worth it. People are, some people are getting 3% interest rates. It's going to depend on your FICO scores and your credit background and everything, of course, but interest rates are low, and I'm seeing them definitely below 4 for people. So if you need to buy, it's a great time because you've got low interest rates and you've got increasing values, which means that if you wait a year, it could be 10% higher. Normally, we increase around 4 or 5% in Tucson in general, but with the lack of inventory right now, we are seeing multiple offers and homes are selling for above list price. So that could drive up the value of homes. So if you're able to buy and you're willing to deal with some of the drama of it, is worth it. I am working with buyers. We are winning in multiple offer scenarios. You have to know what strategy to use, but it's still doable. If you're a seller and you're thinking about selling, just call me because it's a really great time to sell your house. You will get a lot of buyer traffic, and if you need to sell, now's the time. Experts are saying that sellers are a little bit hesitant because of coronavirus. And I do know that if you're living in your home, now is a really challenging time to invite a bunch of strangers to come into your home, especially because right now we're in July of 2020 and Arizona is considered a coronavirus hotspot. So, we have a lot of cases. People are being more careful, and it's hard though. If I was a seller, I would probably wait or be very, very strict about showings. And so I do want to say in that regard, it really is your comfort level that's going to dictate what we do. For my listings, I do a Matterport walkthrough, which is pretty much like Google Earth for inside the home. People can walk through the house. They don't even have to physically be there. So that helps kind of weed people out. If they aren't really interested in that type of home, they'll know it before they even get there. Obviously, good photos and videos always help because some people are still sitting at home looking at real estate on their computers, and so being able to market that works really well. And then also you can restrict what happens at showings. Some people are requiring masks and gloves. Some people are requiring that the seller just be there to turn on all the lights and so that nobody has to touch anything. There's a number of things you can do. If you need to sell your house, we can do it. I even have a seller right now who has just moved into a friend's house for a short period of time while we show it, so she doesn't have to worry so much about living in a home that a bunch of people have been walking in. So I just want to say I understand the challenges and the concerns as a seller that you may have, and I'm willing to work with whatever comfort level you're at. For buyers, I am constantly wearing a mask. I don't go out without it. It protects me and it protects buyers and whoever else I'm in contact with. I do have contact with a lot of older clients, and so I just want you guys to know that I'm doing everything I can to keep you guys safe. Another thing that we can do if your buyer needs to buy but does not want to be out all the time is we can do Skype walkthroughs or some sort of video call. And some people do FaceTime or what have you. And basically you could see the homes. I will walk through them with you. You can ask questions. We can look everywhere. And then either you can buy it like that, or you can use that method to reduce the amount of homes that you actually go physically see. So we'll weed them out that way. And then you can come out to the one or two that look the best. So COVID-19 is very interesting. It's definitely having an effect on how we do business, but it doesn't have to mean that we don't do business. It just means that we have to readjust. And realtors have always been readjusting. The market is never the same. I started my business in 2005 and I worked through the market crash. And we just do what we have to do to help you guys. So anyway, I'd love to hear from you. My number is 520-481-3695. And if you'd like copies of the information that I showed on today's video, just respond in a comment, or if you're watching this on your email, send me an email reply and ask for it, and I'd be happy to send it over. Have a wonderful day and stay safe.